Okay, for this video, we're going to try to find a side using trigonometry. We still need the same ratios, opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tan is opposite over adjacent. So just like what we were doing before, if we're given an angle, 42 degrees, we usually go from that angle. I know I can figure out this angle over here is like 48 degrees. So I could work from that one as well, but I usually go from the one that's given to you. Do the same thing that we've been doing. We label the side across from it the opposite, side across from the 90, the hypotenuse, and the leftover side, the adjacent. And the same thing we were doing yesterday, where we circle the sides that we have or that we want to find. So I'm going to circle the 44 and the x. I'm not going to involve the opposite, which means I'm not going to do anything with the sine, and because it has opposite, and I'm not going to do anything with the tangent because it has opposite. So my home base for this problem is cosine. And I'm going to plug in everything I know. I know cosine of that angle. I know that angle is 42. I don't know the adjacent, but I do know the opposite is 44. And we've been solving these for a while now. Basically, this is a proportion. You just have to be careful when you multiply in a calculator. 1 times x is x. But cos of 42 times 44 should be around 32.7. Just double check that you're getting that as well. When you put this in a calculator, I actually put cos of 42 and I close parentheses. And then I times it by 44. So double check that. And the same type of setup from before when we were doing the next problem. I know that other angle is 60, and I could work from the other angle, or I could work from this angle that I have. The side I know and the side I want to know. And we're going to set it up the same way, except this one is not involving the adjacent. So tan is off the list, cosine is off the list. It has to be sine. I'm writing the formula so that you can see that I'm filling in these blanks. Opposite is x, hypotenuse is 20. Again, it's like a proportion. X times 1 is x. Sine of 30 times 20. You can type in 20 times sine of 30, and we should be getting 10, or you can do sine of 30, but make sure you're closing that parentheses when you type it in your calculator, times 20. And I'm getting 10 as my final answer for that. Let's just, because we feel like it, if we didn't feel like going from 49, we could go from 41. Because I know that's got to add up to 180. We should get the same answer if we go from 41. This side would be the opposite. This side would be the hypotenuse. This side would be the adjacent. We have the opposite. We're looking for the adjacent. That one involves tangent. Get used to showing your work for these, because they're not all easy. When you get to a problem like this, these are the ones that students have the most problems with. They do 13 times 1 and they get 13, but then they have no idea how to do tan 41 times x. I write it personally, tan 41 times x. because there's no sense in me doing any work for it, because the goal is to get rid of that tan 41 and get x by itself anyways. So if I want to get x by itself and it's multiplying by tan 41, just like I would normally do, I'm going to divide by tan 41. That whole tan 41 and that whole tan 41 reduce to 1. And I'm going to type in my calculator 13 divided by tan 41. And I get like 14.95. Those ones are tricky, but it's the same type of process. It's just the fact that that tan 41 throws people off. So last but not least, before you work on your own, we're going to go from the 28. You could go from the other angle. It's probably 62. So you could go from the other angle. I'm going to make it easy. On myself. I'd still do my circling. A and H, if I look up at the top, was cos. $28. And A was 12. X was the hypotenuse. Again, this is one of those ones where we're going to have to cross multiply. 12 isn't the problem. It's the cos 28 times x. And I'm afraid this is going off the page for you. That's better. And the only way to get rid of this 28 over here, this cos of 28, would be to divide by cos 28 on both sides. And then I get x all by itself. And I'm going to type in my calculator 12 divided by cos of 28. And I get like 13.59. Make sure you're not just copying what I do, but also trying to make sure it works in your calculator too.